opening of Signs we meet Graham, a man who lives a quiet life on a farm outside Pennsylvania with his 2 children and his brother Merrill. One morning he awakens to find mysterious crop circles in his cornfields. While at first dismissed as a prank, it gradually becomes clear that they are signs pointing towards an imminent extraterrestrial invasion.
What in God's name is going on?
I think director M. Night Shyamalan does a remarkable job at telling a story that begins with a sense of wonder and then slowly builds towards a much more serious feeling of existential dread. But while most discussions have focused on plot-related issues surrounding the specifics of the alien invasion, there is a deeper story here that I feel hasn't been given the same attention. A story about how we give meaning to the world and how we struggle when that meaning is lost. This story is established in one of the very first shots, where a cross-shaped mark on the wall reveals a belief that was once there, but is now gone.
Please stop calling me father.
Indeed, as we learn later, Graham used to be a reverend until his wife died in what to him felt like such a random and meaningless accident that he gave up on his faith. The arrival of the extraterrestrials then doesn't just serve to tell a suspenseful and entertaining story, but the series of extraordinary events and inexplicable coincidences that follow these lights in the sky also challenge Graham's resolve on its deepest, most existential level, thereby revealing the fundamental questions of chance and meaning at the core of our lives. So today I want to examine how science develops its story from the mundane to the extraordinary and ultimately to the metaphysical, and how in doing so it creates a reflection of the different ways human beings make sense of the world around them and gives us a meaningful exploration into the essence of faith.
See, what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind that sees signs, sees miracles? Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
Where are they?
It is no coincidence that science starts with a real-life phenomenon. When crop circles first received their widespread popularity in the 70s and 80s, these natural sources of the unknown were understandably exciting and even a bit menacing. Despite now considered to be harmless pranks, seeing as most of them were never claimed, they still retain a sense of mystery even to this day. And it is with this sense of wonder that science begins.
It was strange finding the crops that way. The kids were confused by it, and I'd sure take the strangeness away if I knew it was just Lionel and the Wolfenden brothers messing around, that's all.
Immediately we witness the basic human function of constructing meaning from experience, of taking an event and placing it within a larger context that renders it comprehensible.
So what happened to your crops?
In this case, Graham assumes the circles in his cornfield were a prank by some local boys, thereby turning the strange encounter into an event that's little more than a break from the ordinary. Just enough to confuse the kids, but not enough to cause any real worry. In his book Acts of Meaning, Jerome Bruner draws attention to the importance of narrative in this process of making sense of the world around us. One of its crucial properties, he writes, is that it specializes in the forging of links between the exceptional and the ordinary.
Can't be by hand, it's too perfect.
Doesn't sound much like Lionel Pritchard and the Wolfenden brothers.
This is what we see in most of the first act as Graham and his family struggle to find a fitting narrative to explain the crop circles and the strange events that followed them.
Lionel Pritchard and the Wolfenden brothers are back.
What is interesting here is that each person clearly has their own vocabulary, their own set of reference points to construct a story.
How certain are you that this was a male?
Oh, I don't know any girls who could run like that.
I don't know, Meryl. I've seen some of those women on the Olympics.
Take for example how Merrill shapes his theory on the intruders based on his own physical capacity.
It's just, I'm pretty strong, and I'm pretty fast. And this guy, he was just toying with us.
And compare that with how Officer Paskey includes a different incident to turn two exceptional occurrences into one understandable narrative.
An out-of-town woman stopped by the diner yesterday afternoon. She scared a couple of the customers. No one's seen her since. And my point is, we don't know anything about the person you saw. And we should just keep all possibilities available.
To get their minds off the strange events happening around the farm, the family makes a trip into town.
Be back for pizza in 15.
Besides serving as an effective way to expand on the backstories of our main characters, the sequence is also used to further illustrate how everyone uses their own personal frames of references to solve the mystery and possible threat of the crop circles, which are now revealed to be appearing all over the world. Hearing the townspeople's thoughts therefore doesn't really teach us much about the crop circles, but we are learning something about them. We learn about the bookshop owner who watches the news but only sees an insidious advertising campaign.
They're trying to sell sodas. It's plain and simple. I've been watching these reports since morning. I have seen 12 soda commercials so far. 12!
We learn about the religious pharmacy girl who sees the crop circles as a sign of the end of the world and desires to confess her sins.
Please, I need to clear my conscience.
And we meet the army man who, unsurprisingly, sees the whole thing unfolding as a military operation.
I've got it figured. It's a military procedure. You send out a reconnaissance group, make sure things are all clear.
Clear for what?
For the rest of them.
While these individuals appear somewhat confident in their belief of what's going on, that isn't to say that the process of constructing meaning is easy. On the contrary, when it comes to finding answers to the deepest questions of life, especially in the face of hardship and suffering, this task can feel quite impossible and even lead to an existential crisis. And unfortunately for our characters, as they confront the reality of an alien invasion, this is exactly the kind of crisis they're about to face. There is a turning point in the film where the up until then almost titillating speculations surrounding the mystery of the crop circles are replaced with the dread of actual alien invaders. But besides posing as a physical danger, the invasion doubles as an assault on the constructs that give our lives order and meaning. Their presence signifies that which escapes our ordinary language and leaves us staring into the abyss, forced to make sense of that strangeness, that unknown which, almost by definition, cannot be grasped, except perhaps by looking for meaning in the largest possible context.
People break down into two groups. When they experience something lucky.
In this pivotal conversation between Graham and Meryl, Graham divides people into those who see the universe as inherently meaningless, where things happen as the result of random chance.
For them, this situation is a 50-50. Could be bad. Could be good.
And into a second group of people who believe in more than coincidence.
They see it as a sign. Evidence that there is someone up there watching out for them.
It is interesting that Graham bases his distinction on the experience of a lucky event, because the question of whether or not there's someone watching over us, and thus whether or not the universe is ultimately meaningful, is of course much more challenging in the context of bad fortune. But then again, Graham's refusal to frame the question as such is understandable, knowing the tragedy that caused him to lose his faith.
What do you know?
Hello, Ray.
When we meet Ray, the man responsible for the tragic accident that killed Graham's wife, we see that he too has been struggling with the same questions of chance versus fate.
It had to be at that right moment. That 10-15 seconds when I passed her walking.
Considering the almost impossible coincidence of the accident, he does wonder if it really was just random chance.
It was like it was meant to be.
Graham, however, isn't yet willing to consider it in such terms and specifically mentions the insensible last words of his wife as a sign of ultimate meaninglessness.
Tell him to see.
You know why she said that? Because the nerve endings in her brain were firing as she died. And some random memory of us at one of your baseball games just popped into her head.
You tell Meryl to swing away.
There is no one watching out for us, Meryl. We are all on our own.
But there's more at stake than Graham's personal beliefs, for it also becomes clear that this crisis of faith is causing a rift in the family. We see the first signs of this when Graham wants to leave the house to move someplace he believes is safer, but his brother and children disagree and side against him.
All those in favor of home, raise your hand.
This is ridiculous.
While here the conflict is based on a rather practical decision, it signifies the deeper divide between Graham and the other members of his family who have not lost their faith and are still looking to Graham for guidance and security.
Couldn't you pretend to be like you used to be? Give us some comfort.
It's a beautiful way of showing how our search for meaning does not take place in a vacuum, but is intrinsically connected to those around us. It shows how much of our sense of self is given validation by being shared, by being acknowledged by someone else. As a reverend, Graham used to play an important role in helping others find that comfort.
What's the matter with everyone? Eat.
Maybe we should say a prayer.
The value of which becomes undeniable when we experience its absence in what might just be the film's most heartbreaking scene.
I am not wasting one more minute of my life on prayer. Not one more minute. Understood? It's happening.
As the aliens try to break their way into the house, Graham and his family flee into the basement where Morgan suffers a serious asthma attack.
I know. It hurts. Be strong, baby. It'll pass. It'll pass.
Having forgotten his medication, Graham does his best to help his son breathe. It is the first time he acknowledges God again, albeit in anger.
I hate you. I hate you.
And who can blame him? After all they've been through, surely he's not going to lose another loved one as the result of some stupid happenstance. Fortunately, they survive the night. And as the sun rises, it appears the alien invaders have left. But just as they're about to sigh in relief, there's one final test waiting for them. An alien has captured Morgan and is about to inject him with poison gas. For a moment, time comes to a halt, and then, suddenly, it all falls into place. Now, to fully grasp the meaning of Science Finale, we must turn to the work of Viktor Frankl. I've talked about his book Man's Search for Meaning before. I explored his general thesis on our longing for purpose, and examined the more specific topic of finding meaning in a time of suffering. I have, however, not yet discussed his thoughts on the question of ultimate meaning. Frankl begins by acknowledging that as far as science goes, we have not yet found an ultimate meaning to our existence. However, he wonders, given the potentiality of multiple dimensions beyond our limited experience, whether this absence of observable ultimate meaning really implies that we should assume it doesn't exist. He asks us to imagine a horizontal plane with multiple isolated points that don't appear to have a meaningful connection. These points serve as symbols for the things we at first sight considered random events, like Morgan's asthma, Meryl's baseball record, Bo's weird habit of leaving glasses of water around the house, and the insensible dying words of Graham's wife. Now consider a vertical plane representing a for us inaccessible higher dimension that intersects with the horizontal plane, and in doing so places the random points on a curve that does reveal a meaningful connection.
Swing away, Meryl.
Note that this is not an argument for the existence of ultimate meaning. Frankel merely explores its potentiality as a way of reminding us that not everything can be explained in definitive terms. There will always be an irrational rest, that which is fundamentally unknowable. Therefore, he poses that if we cannot answer the question of ultimate meaning intellectually, we may as well do so existentially. And it is at this point that we find the essence of faith. Frankel writes, vis-a-vis the fact that it is equally conceivable that everything is absolutely meaningful and that everything is absolutely meaningless. In other words, that the scales are equally high. We must throw the weight of our own being into one of the scales.
To which you have to ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind that sees signs, sees miracles? Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
And this concludes the ending of Signs. It doesn't propose factual evidence of ultimate meaning. There's no explicit hand of fate. There is only Graham choosing to see the signs, choosing to again see the world as meaningful. Because ultimately, that is what Signs was really about. It's a film about recognizing the narratives we create to find meaning in a universe that refuses to provide us with one. About finding stories that bring us together, that give us strength, give us hope. It's about acknowledging the grand mystery of our existence and being open to all possibilities. Even the possibility that someday, for us too, there will be a moment where the up until then random dots marking the course of our lives suddenly reveal themselves into a pattern that defies our most reasonable sensibilities, leaving us with an experience that is, for all intents and purposes, a miracle.